Welcome back. Go back in history a bit, back to the year 1907, 100 years ago. Teddy Roosevelt was president of the United States. The first Hershey's Kiss rolled off the assembly line, and the state of California set up the present-day boundaries of San Diego County. That year also, the Board of Supervisors created what is now known as the Probation Department to supervise a growing unlawful population. Well, again, that was 100 years ago this month. We'll take a look now at the history of the Probation Department with a special look at the role of Juvenile Hall.
Beneath the surface of a thriving tourism industry in the heart of Mission Valley used to stand an isolated 7-bedroom farmhouse detaining San Diego's first juvenile delinquents and dependents. When it opened in 1909, it was called the San Diego Detention Home. In 1911, the Superior Court appointed Lily Reed and May Beck as assistant probation officers, but the county's auditor refused to pay them on the grounds it was illegal for women to work for county government. They sued, and the courts ruled in their favor, opening the doors for more women to work for the county. In 1919, Sarah Anthony became the superintendent of the detention home, which housed 17 children at the time. She taught the kids how to raise chickens, rabbits, vegetables, and bees. The home was expanded several times, and by the time she left in 1941, it housed more than 100 kids. To honor her 22 years of service, the detention home was renamed the Anthony Home.
She had a whole bunch of kids in there for different things in the old Anthony Home. It was a different time. I don't think people were quite as violent in that day. They were mostly cooperative. If they're really bad, you could put them in an isolation room for 2 or 3 days. Or if it was a minor offense, you put them on bread and milk for a meal.
There were no psychiatrists and no prescribed medications for kids. Probation officers had minimal training, and there were no state mandates to follow.
You just did what you thought was best, or what you thought would work. Most of them would take them out and play football or basketball or something, and they got along pretty good.
World War II increased the county's population. Boys' arrests increased more than 50%, and girls' arrests quadrupled. The Anthony Home was becoming overcrowded, and the fire marshal condemned the building. The Board of Supervisors began looking for a new site and acquired 20 acres in Kearney Mesa. The new juvenile hall opened in 1954 and was called the finest juvenile detention facility in the country.
My kids didn't like it at first because they were in separate rooms and weren't together as a group as much.
The kids were housed in 5 separate living areas according to gender and age. It incorporated all the latest advancements like concrete construction, a centralized kitchen, and separate classrooms and play yards. Unlike the Anthony Home, Juvenile Hall only housed delinquents, held for a range of offenses.
Maybe they stole a tire, or maybe they shoplifted some candy, or, they ended up in Juvenile Hall for things like that.
In 1963, an innovative program began in an unused portion of Juvenile Hall, focusing on teaching girls impulse control, responsibility, and cooperative living. Even as innovative programs were introduced, officer training still had a way to go.
Well, I had the training officer, and he took me down to Unit 100. He showed me how to open a door. We played a game of pool, and then the shift came in from rec, and I was on duty, and that was it. I was fully trained. Good to go. That's all I needed.
As the need arose for increased staff in the 1970s, women officers were being placed in boys' units for the first time.
We did not feel terribly welcome. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge. I think there was a certain amount of resentment on the part of staff about having women working with the men.
The 1980s marked more juvenile hall expansions, and a new juvenile court was built. Facing increasing juvenile crime and an overflowing juvenile hall, Supervisor Ron Roberts flew to Washington, D.C. to ask for help. A new pilot program was initiated in the late 1990s that would become a national model.
To deal with prevention, intervention, treatment, supervision, and incarceration. So we built a system together with all the key players over time that I think showed some terrific results.
Along with innovative programs came a new state-of-the-art facility. The East Mesa Juvenile Detention Facility opened in 2004 to house the highest risk offenders and plan for an increased population in the years ahead. From its humble beginnings, with a single probation officer and a 7-bedroom farmhouse, the San Diego County Probation Department has grown into a thriving department with more than 1,000 probation officers supervising 24,000 offenders in the community.
We should be very proud of what we all did together, and that we are still doing it, I think, is terrific.
Of course, the probation department is a lot more than just juvenile hall. Officers are in the field day in and day out supervising both adults and juveniles who've been convicted of crimes. For more information, just go to our website at ctn.org.